Welcome back to another episode of High Minded with McCarter, featuring my co-host, SK.
Hey everyone, what's up?
In this episode, we interview Kip and Chris of Stoned Appetit out of Denver, Colorado, where they cover all things food, booze, and bud. And we also talk a lot about what being Cali sober is, since that's what SK and I identify as. Kip brought his bottle of red wine, and he was saying that all four of us at the table actually have all gotten DUIs.
Yes, so
we got to talk about that. That was fun.
Yeah, and other experiences with police in this episode.
We talked about a lot of other stuff too, but enjoy the episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to like, rate, subscribe, follow, whatever, all that jazz, and say hi. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, guys. Welcome.
Welcome to High Minded with McCarter and SK. We're super excited to have the boys from Stoned Appetit here. Kip and Chris, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, ladies. We're fired up to be here.
We're super excited to talk about obviously getting stoned, using cannabis, using other plant medicines as well, and then just wherever it takes us, really. I started the podcast because I feel like cannabis just, you can get to know people better when you're like, sharing a bowl, sharing a joint, I want to get to the meat of the conversation. I don't like the fluffer shit. So I want to go deep.
Deep into what?
Oh, well, for starters, Sarah and I met because we both got a DUI last year. And
we've all been there.
We met in our group therapy class.
Ooh, nobody in my group therapy class was cool.
So if we're going deep into DUI law,
yes,
we can.
We're going deep.
We're all very well versed in this, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Legislation
well,
is
especially
fucked,
you were
so.
like, I'm bringing a bottle of wine. And I was like, well, Sarah's sober.
Yeah.
I just got back into
California sober.
drinking. Which we're going to talk about California
totally.
sober.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Cali sober, what that's about. Fiona Apple is actually California sober, so already...
Who knew?
Yeah, I just read a whole thing, but...
But we're going to start from the top, actually. Y'all are both from the South. When and why did you start smoking weed? And what was that like? If it was in the South or if it was in Denver,
Yeah, and where are y'all from? When did you move?
So the quick rundown for your listeners.
Do a rundown.
My name's Kip Wilson. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi originally, but grew up between there and Louisiana and the Gulf Coast area, just kind of with family all over the place. Moved out here in 11, August of 11, now here 10 years. First time getting high, it was a church retreat, and I got narked out by somebody else in the group that got high, said, like they caved.
They're like, we're high.
No, they caved? Yeah, exactly.
Totally, classic.
And so 6 of us all got in trouble, and we had to tell our parents that.
Oh, no.
And I remember being like, I don't even think I got high, Dad. And he was like, I think he was kind of like, kids will be kids and such.
Yeah.
So church camp or something, church
I love
retreat.
that.
Oh,
Nice.
So yeah.
How old were you, though?
14?
Okay.
Probably,
Same.
I was in 8th grade. So,
Yes.
I couldn't drive yet. But
Same.
You were stealing your mom's Virginia Slims and Budweisers out of the fridge. I kind of see it in that same parallel, obviously, in this day and age, but no one did at that time. But,
Totally.
They didn't care.
Especially in the South.
Yeah, like filling water in the vodka bottle.
That's a classic move.
I feel like church retreats in the South were commonplace for
Parents sent us there
weed.
because somebody else was watching us because we weren't well enough to be watched, to be left alone.
Yeah.
We couldn't be left alone, so they sent you to church events.
Yeah.
But it was like you had less supervision at the church camps because that's where everyone
It's like finger banging.
lost their virginity or smoked weed for the first time. That's the place. It's like, what? Why are these church grounds breeding this devilish behavior?
It's because all these kids that probably do need Jesus are just hanging out with each other and going for the camaraderie. And that's how I fell in love with Colorado. We were taking those big ass buses through the night. You would drive through the night on a bus and you would wake up in Winter Park or in steamboats. So we grew up skiing out here and in New Mexico, and so we fell in love with it. But yeah, it's all just a bunch of deviant kids with a little bit of their parents' money, which goes a long way at church camps and such. You can bring a little weed and it goes far,
Yeah.
I definitely relate to that. What about
Chris
you?
has got to have a better
All right,
story.
I was born in Birmingham, grew up
Okay.
down in Dothan, about an hour away from the Gulf Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, so really close to the beach. So grew up going down to the beach a lot. Anyways, I moved out here in 2010 after I finished grad school in London. One of my
Oh.
best friends lived out here, and I'd visited like during spring break one year. And then I was like, I got to get the fuck back out here.
Yep.
So I came as soon as I could. But back to smoking weed, my first time, I want to say it was around 8th or 9th grade, probably 8th grade, like 14, 15.
Yes. That's the
but
trend.
Me and one of my buddies, we went to like a smaller private school, but we had a bunch of friends at like the 2 bigger public schools in our city.
Yes.
Shout out to
And so they were, shout out to my boy Samson and my boy Seaburn. So
Amazing.
they locked down the dime bag of pot that we had, lots of seeds and stems, crazy. Funny story though, when they got to my house that night, like we didn't have anything to smoke it with. And somebody was like, well, I think you can use like Tampax paper or something like that. So he went and got like the paper that like, yeah. And so he rolled up a joint in that. I have 2 older sisters. And then we snuck out.
I was
to
like,
this-
are you using those for
Yeah,
some
no.
nosebleeds or?
And then we snuck out to this abandoned pink house in our neighborhood and we smoked 2 Tampax rolled joints out there.
Wow.
And I did not get high. I was so furious. I was like, this is bunk.
I actually didn't get high my first time.
Yeah.
either.
The next morning though, got high as fuck. Like I was like, okay, this is legit.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you use
Oh.
the Tampax the next morning as well?
No,
Yeah,
the next
wait.
morning we grabbed aluminum foil and a water bottle.
Yep.
And I was like, guys, why
y'all
did we
used your heads
Yeah.
like overnight?
Literally.
Yeah.
So here's a question because we had shitty weed growing up, and
Same.
so like
Yeah,
you,
totally.
we got it from the same guy that would buy us a 12-pack of Bud Light, and you take it to the river things.
For
Okay.
sure, yeah.
What was the weed like in both Kentucky and in St. Louis?
Like the suburbs of Cincinnati, but kind of like as far out of Cincinnati before it turns into farmland. So northern Kentucky, Florence. Yeah, the weed was not good. It was pretty trash actually. Lots of seeds,
Yeah.
lots of stems. When I got to Colorado and I first saw like a real bud, I was like, these colors, what is this like?
Yes.
Yeah. At least the people I was buying it from did not have like medical stuff and that sort of thing. But when I came to college at CU, a kid in my dorm had a med card, and so that was a game changer.
Well, see,
That's still a game changer.
Right.
No taxes is a fantastic price.
Oh, yeah.
Edibles?
And 1,000 milligrams.
and we
now.
would always get our weed from like people who graduated ahead of us too, like as we got
Yes.
older in high school when
Okay,
they
that
came back
too.
from college. Like Alabama and Auburn, they always had good weed around there. So
Right.
Wow.
we would get that back, but you'd have to pay a price, like $60.
Dude,
eighths.
$30 grams.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yes.
envious of these Colorado and California trips in high
It's
school.
so
We would have
interesting.
definitely, I would have loved those, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
did not
Well,
happen.
then, like a couple spring breaks, I knew because my sister went to University of Denver, so I visited her
Oh, nice.
in high school, and I was like, Colorado is the place for the weed. So I knew.
Did you
even,
move here because you loved weed and you wanted to be immersed in the
Yes,
scene?
but in college, I got 2 possession charges. So after I told my parents about these possession charges, they were like, just go where it's legal. So once I graduated, I moved right out to Boulder.
Love
And
that advice.
yeah, been here for 4 years. One of the questions I had written down, back in your hometowns, do y'all have any friends that like got in trouble or like went to jail or like even prison for like trafficking
Whoa.
cannabis or like anything like that?
I don't feel like, I mean, obviously, yeah, marijuana is an issue still in the southern states. People are going to jail for it all the time. And when we were in college, there was, these small little pops here and there of people, in our friend group, and somebody probably flipped on somebody else. But in small towns like that, you can kind of get a little bit out of that with a little bit of money. Let's say like things would disappear and things of that nature.
Right.
But no, not really. Shipping was kind of the biggest concern, and there was always that one guy in college that would have, the boxes mailed to them. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I always kept a distance. Like I had 2
Yeah.
or 3 guys I could call that, I mean, they would get some serious weight in, but I was going over there like, hey, let's smoke a bowl, maybe play a video game real quick, and then I'm out.
Oh, you fluffed them before you bought your eight?
So one guy,
That's a fluff.
That
That's a
is.
heterosexual friend fluff. You go in there, you play a game, you smoke his own supplies, and then you hope for a fat eighth for that price. That's what you fluff them.
One guy made you kind of. So I was,
Yeah, that
He
does
was like
suck.
There's
looking
always
to
that guy.
hang.
Yeah, he was like, I packed a bowl. You want to
That's
sit?
the
And sometimes I was
The
like,
talker?
dude.
Those
yeah.
are the worst.
Yeah.
Talker was a bad one too.
That's why I had a couple
Like
guys.
an hour and a
Yeah.
half later, you're like, oh my God.
But then,
This
like,
is where I'm gonna
so,
put my kids' toy set.
so whenever there would be like kind of, I guess most of our supplies probably came in via Atlanta. So whenever there was a major bust up there,
Yeah.
it could go dry for several weeks.
Right.
But like, I didn't know anybody at that level. So I don't know anybody who's like definitely facing serious time or anything like that.
Yeah.
It is very strange that our country does have that dichotomy of like some people are facing serious time in the world and
Some people are making
just
billions of dollars off of it.
exactly.
And now time for a quick commercial break. C4 Health Labs offers CBD products formulated for therapeutic effect, made only with organic farming practices and extraction. They're dedicated to promoting positive health and focused on purity and transparency. I'm a big fan of their infused lip balm, and SK likes their citrus full spectrum CBD oil. Use code McCarterGetsHigh for 15% off at c4healthlabs.com. Certain exclusions may apply. Being in the being in the food industry, well, I used to be a music journalist for 303 magazine when I first moved to Boulder before I got into the cannabis industry. And I realized how much drinking was an influential aspect of that industry. So I wanted to ask you guys the same thing about working in the food and beverage scene that you do in Denver. And have you ever considered going Cali sober, giving up alcohol, since we have these,
So like I feel like if I could I can drink a little bit of it and not, catch a fade or anything like that. And so it's a nice thing that you can sip on after a long day of work or while you cook. And while you can do that with a joint or even with an edible and enjoy that high, those things can also be accessories, or one can play well with the other.
Yeah.
And so it's not always let's catch a we're going to get drunk or black out, but it's that after the hike beer or, let's ride the bike up to the brewery and have a beer. So it's still an active community in Denver. But no, in no way. I do breaks, like we'll not drink on certain like weekdays when we're a little bit more just like docile and we don't have shit going on.
Yeah.
But if we're out doing things, I don't mind having a cocktail, but
Yeah, I think it's all about really maintaining a balance.
Totally. Tell us
And
more.
that's the word.
And I mean, I guess though, like I would have to say, since the pandemic started, my drinking habits definitely like increased a little bit.
Totally.
Just, I mean, from countless factors we all know. But I mean, for most part, like I think when I first moved out here and I did get I got a DWAI, like,
That's what I got.
okay, yeah.
Wait, what's the difference between
Driving
we didn't
while
have-
ability impaired.
So I
Percentage,
so I
or-
just moved here
Oh.
and I blew a .06. That happening though, like, because clearly, I mean, I knew I was okay to drive, but obviously there had probably been other times where I wasn't, for sure, especially
Right.
growing up where I did and stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, that kind of made you really check how your drinking was going on outside. So I think that helped me tone it down a lot.
Yeah. I agree.
And I used to like really not drink much during the week and just drink on the weekends. And still not all the times do I get like wasted. But since the pandemic, I would say like I have a few more cocktails during the week
yeah.
than I did pre,
Because we're all just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about
But the
that,
drinking and driving doesn't faze me.
the
Ooh,
Cali,
I'm in
Cali
downtown,
sober
so-
though, do you ever take a break from weed?
No.
I try to. Yeah, every few months I'm like, I'm gonna do it, and sometimes I'm successful.
It's that post Super Bowl. Let's do.
What, how
something.
many
Yeah.
days? How many days are we talking successful?
I went 3 months
Oh, okay.
last year, but it was I in those 3 months, I think I smoked like 3 times.
Oh,
so it
that's
was
pretty
like,
damn good.
That's
Yeah.
very. I would have thought you were saying like a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the longest I've had in years. So,
Wow.
But sometimes I'll go
I
for a
can't go
week.
that.
Usually I start every Monday with like, today is gonna be the beginning of a whole thing, and then by like 10:30, I'm like, okay,
Yes, literally.
next week.
I was gonna say if I
So-
try to take a
Fuck this
tolerance
day.
break, it's always that.
Yeah.
It's like beginning of the day. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a couple days, maybe a week, and then literally by like 10 p.m., I'm like, I can't fall asleep. Blah blah. Blah. Like I have no appetite.
Yeah, or like
I'm
I'm getting
irritable.
emotional. It's
See,
that
but
can
I
happen.
don't smoke morning in the weed like before work.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I don't either. I
It's
don't
an
smoke
after
in-
work thing.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's
Oh,
like
see, that's nice.
And yeah, I wish I could do that. No, it's a it's a all day.
Yeah.
Morning, noon, night.
I mean, I on the weekends I'll get high in the morning, but most days I just kind of get up and get to work. But I start my day a little earlier and I kind of finish a little earlier depending on my flexibility, my schedule. So when people that follow us on social media see that I'm having, a beer and a puff at lunch, it's because I don't have anything to do the rest of the day.
It's like,
I don't
yeah.
start my day. I'm not like, okay, I got to get high and then go do whatever,
Right.
1A.
I
It's-
see.
It's more like, let's put on deodorant. You smell terrible. And
then
then
go
go
on.
about our day. Yeah.
What's your
don't-
guys' view on like smoking and drive? I mean,
I don't drive too terribly often. I fucking don't like it. I don't do it often. We don't live
Anxious.
far. Yeah. I don't like it
Yeah,
at
fair.
all. So
That's
I
good.
don't drive very often. And I'm usually drinking. And so I kind of have that, I'm not going to drive.
you're definitely an alcohol forward.
Yeah, I'm definitely an alcohol forward because I think that's kind of how I not only met Chris but also started the podcast. Was we were a party podcast, but we love marijuana.
Oh,
but
wow. Okay.
I love a lot of things.
yeah.
I
was
don't know
gonna-
what we talk about on this podcast, but I'm not going to incriminate myself.
True.
Nobody would ever describe us as sober. I think we do a lot of work. I mean, in any form or facet. We love our friends and partners over at the brewery. Like last week's episode was not Lady Justice, Emporium Beer. And then before that, we had Denver Beer Co. I mean,
Nice.
we love, and that's one great thing about the Denver scene as well is, it's just similar to that same craft of the wine and the marijuana, is that, these are a lot of people showing their artistic skill and creating some delicious things that, I mean, there's a huge community in Boulder as well.
And the people behind the scenes, you meet a
Yeah.
lot of cool fucking people. Like I'd say that's mainly like my drive. And with our hands in these different industries like cannabis, beverage, and food, like these people have all had incredible stories. Like shit you wouldn't believe.
Totally.
Like how they landed there to what all they've done in the past. And so it's really neat.
Yeah, the Lady
Nice.
Justice episode especially was like awesome.
Allison and
Those
Betsy are
people
fucking awesome.
super cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't wait to go try their non-alcoholic beers.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so
A friend of mine's in town in Denver, so I'm doing that
Hell
this
yeah.
week.
Oh,
for
nice.
sure. Yeah.
it's so fucking awesome. I enjoy those girls so much. I see them over in Arvada where they live, and their beers at Spirit Wine Provisions for those that want to know. Just throwing that out there in Old Town. But I see them over there just kind of hanging out, and they're the same like genuine people like in real life as they can come through on the podcast. Like they're out there supporting local business. They're out there hanging out and like giving you a drink when you come through. Like try our beer. Like they're
I love
great.
that, yeah.
I love those ladies,
That's
and so shout
awesome.
out to them. So.
Yeah, LGBT, female powered. It's
Love
like
'em.
so cool. Yeah, it was so cool to hear. Yeah, that even exists, and yeah,
Hell
And
yeah.
Betsy's a killer on the guitar, so shout out to Chicks who yeah.
nice. As far as like the cannabis scene in Denver, kind of melding with the restaurant scene, like have you seen anything like that where people like chefs or restaurateurs are kind of bringing in cannabis to fill the space of alcohol?
I think Kip might know a little bit more about this, but I mean, I think the trickiest thing with the cannabis and food is number
Levels.
one, like the levels, and then number two, like the reaction time. So I mean, like
Right.
science on reaction time has gotten pretty damn good,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, I mean, there's a lot to consider because, like, number one, if you're melding the two together, are you coming for a way to get high, like, as an experience, or are you coming to, like, maybe taste a little bit of cannabis and, like,
Yeah. Well,
I
and there
don't
can be
understand-
hemp infused. There's a lot of just hemp CBD infused
Right.
foods now too that I'm seeing. I've been to events that just have oh, this is THC infused and this is CBD infused. So are y'all CBD or other cannabinoid users as well?
It's a precarious situation because the alcohol laws and marijuana laws, there's a direct
so-
conflict in
yeah.
how they're not supposed to be taken together.
Right.
Like, because of the gag reflex, we've had people talk about the medicinal side of it on our podcast. And I can't remember the specifics, but it doesn't play. And so the science says that it's not safe. So they're not going to let you do the infused kind of situation.
Okay.
You
What
can
you're
only
gonna
have
want-
one or the other.
Yeah, so that's what's going to happen.
There's just so many different factors that have to get teased out.
So there are states ahead of us, but what Colorado has done well is they think before they step. And so you see California's, they kind of rushed to judgment in some of the instances. And now the government's having to bail out the non-black market industry because it's
yeah.
so overwhelmed and they're not doing anything to correct the issue. So I think Colorado is a little bit more methodical in their actions, but at the same time, everyone kind of looks at us as the model, so let's not fuck that up.
Right.
Totally. And I think,
What were
One-
you going to say?
One thing on that though is like I bet if something really does pass or something, with on-site consumption, things like that, I don't think you'll ever be able to operate 2 licenses. Like it's either
It's
an alcohol
one, yeah.
license or the
Right.
other. Because even if you think in foreign countries, like say,
But what if you have 2 different companies that each have a license and come together?
I don't think you could
There's gonna
have
be
one.
zoning.
I think what he's like, you're gonna have to be a weed spot or a
Okay.
wine bar.
because like
You can't
even
be
even
both.
if you go over in
Yeah, I
Europe and like
wonder.
go in coffee shops, like
Sushi?
there's no alcohol.
Right, you're right. yeah.
You're only consuming weed. You can get
Love
coffee
Love
and stuff.
Amsterdam.
See, but wouldn't it suck to like if you wanted to get high and eat sushi, but look, the demand's not overly like crazy.
It's
like,
not there.
You can't
You
have
just
10
have
of
to-
them. You
yeah.
can only have 2.
Yeah.
And then it's overwhelmed with stoners that want to eat there. Like, so you can't create a market because of that division. So they're like, we just want a happy medium.
So-
It's great.
So
Right.
question, who regulates the CBD?
So
Like that's my big question.
Right.
Is I think a
Okay.
lot of it's probably a
So
hunk of shit.
the FDA is like working on a processing thing. So
Sounds like the COVID vaccine.
right now it's been approved and you have to have below 0.03% THC.
Right.
So, but they're working on some type of system. Like right now you just have to like submit all these like certificates of analysis. But that basically there's still like bunk companies doing bunk shit. You
They're
know?
everywhere. And I tell
Yeah.
people back home, I was like, don't buy any of that shit.
Yeah, because that's
Just call
what's
me and I'll
popping
mail
up
it.
all over the South.
Oh yeah.
Are CBD companies.
Yeah, you have to be really careful. Like, you have to look up people's certificate of analysis and being like, what pesticides do you use? What nutrients are you using? How are you like drying these plants? Like, how are you processing the hemp and the CBD? Like, what type of extraction are you using? Like, there's so many questions.
Yeah. I
We
sometimes
don't even ask
worry
those
at-
questions, and we have a podcast. We literally had our sponsor on the podcast. We didn't ask him any of those questions.
I feel
Come
like
on,
it dilutes
man.
the movement
I mean, we
a
let
little
him
bit.
talk for like 48 minutes. I'm sure he
Well,
said everything he
I
needed
just
to
gave
say.
you the 4 main big questions. Next time.
I got it.
Okay.
Chris's mind is like a
That's what
sponge.
I like to ask people, like the real shit. Like,
Get in there.
Nutrients.
Yeah.
But I feel like I mean,
I got
okay.
what
two
type
of
of soil?
So that with your, did you start learning more about that when you got your med card? Like, does that give you that?
I've just learned that like from working in the industry.
See, I just smoke weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, we're
smoke
just
weed.
we're
Yeah.
just the same like Joe Job guys that like everybody else.
Why do you get high?
I like how I feel and it makes the mundane tasks fun. Like I enjoy being high to do laundry. I would love to say
Yes.
that I could be high and go do conference calls all the time, but I don't want to subject my business to thinking that I'm high all the time. But I like being high. People are like, oh, well, life's great sober. I'm like, I'm sure it may be, but this is a life enhancer. It's the same way people have
Yes.
coffee or Diet Coke or fast food. I enjoy cannabis in that same capacity. It makes me feel good.
I love that.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think really the reason I still smoke today is probably just from when I started back in the day with some of my friends, like just how we would get together and smoke weed, chit chat, maybe about something, maybe about nothing.
Yeah.
But that's all kind of the fun part of smoking weed in the community. I mean, granted, we all smoke by ourselves. It's not like, you remember back in the day when you first like smoked weed by yourself, where you're like,
Did
am I
y'all use the
doing something
Coke can?
wrong?
Oh my
Did
god,
y'all use
no!
the Coke can
I
and
was
poke
like,
holes in
am
it?
I
Oh, yeah.
addicted? Am I like a
Yeah.
crackhead because
Yeah.
I'm smoking by myself? And now I'm like, that's a daily fucking
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. But
It's like, people.
but there are sometimes I think like where
Definitely.
there's sometimes like where I enjoy like I got high today. That was like a really good high, and that felt really good to me. And there's some days where I'm like,
It doesn't hit that
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Oh man, sometimes like anxiety will build up and I'm like, fuck, this just amplified my Sunday scaries. And then you have to go
Yeah.
find a different weed.
Well,
and
that's
so
why
not everybody
strain,
has that luxury.
that's why strains
Yeah.
matter so much, and it's so sad to think that people who really need this medicine.
Yeah, do your research into terp profiles for sure.
After working in a dispensary, I can say most people who don't know or like don't smoke very often will come in and think that they want a sativa. And they'll just be like, I want the one that like makes me active. And
Oh, no.
then, and then they
Then
have
you're
a really
thinking about
bad time.
that
and
girl in ninth grade that broke their heart, and you're like sweating in the hands as you go to pick up a sandwich.
I feel like
Oddly specific, I know.
like- but I think-
welcome to 2014, where you're just shooting from the hip when you go in there. So here's a question: if I didn't know you were a former bud tender, but now that we have you, so what is the ratio tourist and
Yeah, my store, the store that I worked in was in Boulder, and it was more of a tourist like facing store. So I think we got a little more share of that than other ones. No, it was probably about 50-50.
Really?
And
I mean, because you're in
Yeah.
a college community, so you're obviously going to
They
see
were like
different
right
IDs.
off of Pearl Street.
yeah,
though,
we're
too.
yeah, so
one
you're
block
getting
off Pearl, so it was a lot.
Everybody's
of that.
parents who pays for their kids are going to come visit you
I feel
too.
like location is a huge thing, like for dispensaries.
Yeah, so that, like, if you ask somebody that's in just like some random one in Wash Park. Okay, so before we go, I don't know how long we've ran for.
Oh yeah, we should
but-
probably wrap up.
No, I don't know how long it's been, but we have two questions we like to ask all of our
Oh my
guests on our
God.
podcast.
Amazing.
And so, some of our listeners may have tuned in to talk about or hear about cannabis. We ask the same two every week, and they're sponsored by the Seed and Smith Dart.
Of course they are.
you want to go
Hit
number
that
one?
for
dart.
They pay for that exact verbiage.
Hit that dart.
You go number one. I'll do the.
You'll go number two?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go number one on y'all real quick.
Okay.
Stoned Appetit question of the week. Let's say you had a big night. You were just like out gallivanting, smoking pot, and doing cartwheels. You get home late at night. What's that guilty pleasure late night snack you love when you curl up on the couch or before you climb in bed that you have to have, and it's always in the fridge or pantry?
Long story short, it is these like pre-made. Well, I make the batter for these oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, but then I freeze them in little balls. So then I put it in my toaster oven for 12 minutes, and I have a perfectly warm, home, fresh baked oatmeal chocolate chip
Well
cookie.
done.
She's
Well
made
played.
me one of them.
My
They are
God.
truly delicious.
And that's like you just keep a bag of balls in the freezer?
Yep.
I fucking
I can
love
show
it.
you
just, like,
right after
popped
this.
it right open. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm
just
gonna need a
balls.
picture because when I promote this episode, I'm gonna be like, y'all check
Yes.
out McCarter's bag of balls.
Stoned Appetit balls.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great answer.
Yeah, nice. I'm like a fan of. I need a sweet and a savory.
Nice.
So I do like a quesadilla with a little
dilla?
sour. Yeah, dill. Oh my god, comfort food is.
What do you fill your
quesadillas.
dilla with?
I just do cheese
Just the
on
shredded
the
big bag?
shredded big bag. Yeah, four cheese.
Wait, but how do you make it? How do you prepare the dilla?
On the stovetop on
That's
a pan.
ambitious.
And essential.
How do you make it
essential
sweet?
piece. Sweet.
You
well,
said you
then,
liked it sweet and
oh, and then
savory.
on the side, I'll have an ice cream little sundae thing. So it's like you need
So that's
one in each
two
hand.
different
like, it's
dishes.
two
You're
You're
different
telling
things.
me you get high and make an ice cream sundae?
That's a lot of time.
That is like 28 minutes after
No, she
cooking.
said a prepackaged.
Yeah,
sundae.
one of those
Oh.
ones. The like,
Like the-
what's
like
the,
the- like
yeah,
the
like
drink-
good. I don't even know
Yeah.
the brand.
I was
No, I
thinking
know
of
what you're
the-
talking
I was
about.
thinking of the
Yeah.
drumstick.
The drumstick.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
A,
drumstick.
a quesadilla on a stovetop that can take like 6 minutes.
No,
max.
I thought she was
Yeah.
making a fucking sundae.
Oh.
Like
Oh
I
my
thought she was
gosh,
doing like
that'd be-
a glass cup with multiple scoops and
Sometimes
stuff.
I'll
I was
do,
like, that's
like,
messy
an-
before bed.
But
An
getting
ice
a
cream
gas
sandwich,
stove.
like a cookie
fuck
sandwich.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
That-
I'll make 2 cookies and then throw a little.
Oh, that's good.
I love.
But I'm just worried about the gas stove.
Oh, we
issue.
have one of those like flat.
Oh, the flat
See,
one.
those
Yeah,
things are
those
those things are worse
They're
because
the
the
worst.
gas.
No, they're on.
Yeah,
I hate
the
it. Yeah.
gas, you fucking know it's right.
Dude,
it's a
you put a
flame.
plastic
Oh my
bag on it
God.
because it's like basically another surface. You put a plastic bag on one that someone just cooked on, it just melts, and then you just have like plastic melted.
Oh,
all over
yeah,
the
like
place.
to
Oh
go
my
came in.
God.
And
That's
it stinks.
classic. Oh my gosh.
Tailgate nightmares.
That's like every weekend at our house. Someone's got to like go in and scrape it all
Oh
off.
my
you
God,
know?
what a nightmare.
All right.
It's yeah.
Those are-
Next question.
And then a little sour cream and hot sauce.
Yeah,
That
sour
makes
cream and
it
hot sauce
amazing.
for the
Amazing.
quesadilla.
I want that
That's
right
a
now.
So
spicy.
this
Yeah.
question is a little bit
More
harder
think about
hitting.
it. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Okay.
All right, so here
I
it
know
is.
y'all smoke sativas today, but think about it.
We call this question the Last Supper.
Oh, God.
All right. So it's the Last Supper or your last night out. Let's say that. You can have 3 guests. They can be dead or alive, but they can't be your friends or family. Who are you having? We'll start with you, SK. Who are you having? What are y'all doing? What are you eating?
Okay. So I think, I would invite Brene Brown because I fucking love her. Brown. Really want to say like Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Just like
We get a lot of
yeah.
presidents. I like it.
Yeah, I love
Everyone
old
wants to
presidents,
meet
so
a president.
it's
love
like
it.
he ended
Mine's JFK.
slavery, in the way it was then. And then I'd probably bring Terry Gross.
Ooh, okay, NPR.
Yeah, and get
Yeah.
her like really asking the good questions because I feel like he
Wow.
needs someone. So Abe would probably be like kind of the center, and then we'd have Brene on the side, kind of like
This is like an
making it a
all-star
little
of
more.
haircuts. It's like, let me talk to the manager, every single one of them.
Oh my gosh, totally. I've never seen a picture of Terry Gross actually. Do you got one?
Yeah,
She's
I don't
great
know.
on radio.
Oh yeah, she is.
Her quesadilla was cold.
Oh,
And
my
she wants to talk to the
God.
manager.
Okay, she is an icon though.
Yeah,
let's-
yeah.
Let
Living
us
legend,
know.
for
I don't know who anybody is, so I have to have
She's
the internet for this
amazing.
section. Otherwise, I always fail in the last. All right, so what are we doing? You have a killer crew. What
Yeah.
are we gonna do?
So I think it'd be like kind of a just conversation. We're smoking hella weed. Probably start the night with like something a little bouncy, some like ISS, Island Sweet Skunk. And Abe's gonna get high as fuck, and then
How do you think he talks? Do you think he's like slow and methodical, or do you think he's like
Oh, I don't
he
know.
like talks like a car salesman, like Kip, or like what do you think it is? Like, do you think he's like
I think he's
Hey,
very
how's it
slow.
going?
No, I think he's very slow
And deliberate.
Yes, and deliberate.
especially when he's high. So
Yeah.
it would be a slow evening. We need Terry to really like.
It would be
pull it out of
really
him.
slow.
I like to think of
But-
it as like the Key and Peele skit when they're making fun of Barry O smoking pot, and he talked like that. I like to think that they would. That's the voice, Key and Peele when they did the Barry O skits.
That was great.
I know that's what I think of for every like old president because he's just like, it's all rich like this. It's just so great.
Amazing.
It's so
Yeah,
fantastic.
if he had a really like high pitched voice,
Yeah.
it was like 4 score.
Oh, that would be good.
It's like,
shit.
ooh.
Like, damn.
Cut him off.
Right.
Yeah, what if
Good
Teddy
thing
Roosevelt, the
recording
guy that
didn't-
rode buffaloes, was like, "Hey guys, how's it going?"
Rough riding. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are just gonna be smoking hella ton of weed and chit chat.
That's what I like to do. Yeah. We and eating tacos. I love
Eating tacos.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be having tacos at your party.
Yeah, but a lot of queso. Could live off
White
of
queso?
chips and queso. Yeah.
Okay.
Hell
And
yeah.
I would want to bring probably Jesus H. Christ into the
Nice.
situation.
We've had a couple of those.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to. I would be like, bro, tell me what's up. And then another one I would say, probably like, I want to say like Bob Marley,
Okay.
like an OG. And then maybe like Elvis Presley or something.
Ooh.
Digging up a lot
An
of people
Elvis.
from
We haven't
You'd be
Yeah.
like,
seen
Jesus,
that.
why'd you take him from us so soon?
Yes. It'd be a really interesting conversation. I'd all just be joints passing around, everyone getting blazed,
What would you be smoking?
eating queso.
in case
You'd need some mayo and peanut butter sandwich or
banana
banana sandwiches there for the king.
Oh, that's all he
fluffer
wanted?
nutters. I think
No,
is what
he
they're called.
loved apparently mayo.
Oh, fuck, I
thought
didn't
it was
know.
banana and peanut butter.
I'm sorry,
No.
is this Jesus? Who are we
I
talking
thought
No,
he liked
Elvis.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, banana.
Yep, there's a known fact that Jesus loved banana
And
sandwiches.
mayonnaise, yeah.
and
he's-
mayonnaise.
It's in the Bible, actually.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Romans 4:74.
So yeah, those are my 3 people eating queso, probably taking dabs and joints, talking about life and if we exist or not.
Thank you all so much for
Dude, thank you
That
guys
was our
for
last
coming.
question.
Yeah,
yeah.
let's wrap this up. Thank you all for listening to High Minded with McCarter and SK.
Thank
And
you.
big shout out to our boys at Stoned Appetit. Follow them on Instagram. Check out their podcast as well.
Stoned Appetit.
Yeah, food, cannabis, booze, live music. That's kind of our 4 things that
Yeah.
we kind of do with our free time. And
We
like
love
to
those
talk
things dearly.
and we talk to guests from those industries. So especially in the
Amazing.
Colorado, but obviously people from all over. So thanks again for having us,
Fuck
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, this was
Love
fun.
you guys.
Until next time.
Until next
Thank
time. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of High Minded with McCarter and SK.
Big thanks to C4 Health Labs, our sponsor for today's episode.
If you enjoyed what you listened to, please be sure to give us a 5-star review and find us on Instagram at HighMindedPod. And stay high.